Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you're joining us. It's wonderful to see passionate young people, partners, and change makers here today. Your energy and ideas are what makes gatherings like this so powerful. My name is Saif Ali Ahmed Awad. I'm the Data Management and Youth Engagement Officer at the UN Resident Coordinator Office in the UAE. We have an exciting lineup, so let's dive straight in. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Stephen Anderson, the Director of the World Food Program in the UAE and representative to the GCC. Mr. Anderson is leading efforts to strengthen partnerships across the region to combat hunger and enhance global food security. With over 30 years in the humanitarian sector, he has led the WFP in operations in some of the world's most challenging crises, including in Myanmar, Yemen, and the Philippines. He has also held strategic roles in Japan, Nepal, Kenya, and Southern Africa. A US national born in Kenya, Mr. Anderson brings deep field and leadership experience to WFP's mission worldwide. Today, he is representing the UN country team as our interim resident coordinator. Mr. Anderson, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Saif. Sabah al khair, salam alaikum. Very happy and honored to be with all of you. I assume it's the morning for most of you, but just to thank each and every one of you for joining this important flash discussion, and I hope, of course, other colleagues will join as the meeting moves forward. I just want to recognize at the outset and appreciate the excellent collaboration that's taking place with the Ministry of Culture and Youth, the Federal Youth Authority, the Arab Youth Climate Change Council, and also the UN Global Compact Network UAE. I'd also just want to highlight that this discussion today is really part of our collective response to the UN Secretary General's call to action, which he gave last month on the 22nd of July, where he very much urged very bold steps towards COP30. I just like to also mention that the role of the youth as change makers is absolutely critical, but not just it's certainly now, but also in the future. And in the UAE and globally, the young people are leading with they're leading with solutions, they're leading with passion and urgency, and so we just want to highlight that your voices must shape climate action, both in terms of policy, in terms of innovation, education, and also advocacy. Just to echo what António Guterres, the UN Secretary General, his key message was that one, the fossil fuel era is ending, and that the future is three things. It's renewable, it's inclusive, and it's just. And that we should not look on climate action as a burden, but rather really it's an opportunity. We're transforming this into an opportunity for economic transformation, job creation, and also for energy security. And so I think it's beholden on all of us, and particularly the youth, to do our part to contribute in this transition. The UN, for its part, is fully committed to supporting youth leadership in climate dialogue and in key decision making. But we want to encourage all of our institutional partners to go beyond inclusion and try to create real concrete spaces for youth co-leadership. We also are committed to supporting efforts that align youth engagement with national and global climate ambitions. I just want to highlight that this is your platform. It's not my platform. It's not SAFE's platform. It's really your platform. So I'd really strongly encourage you to speak up and not just keep your ideas to yourself. You want to challenge what's being said, but most importantly, you need to bring. We are all here to try to bring solutions. Try to bring a positive. We're trying to be constructive. We just want to celebrate that the youth bring a certain energy and enthusiasm and ideas, and that is critical to bring that to this space and to the movement that is engaged with global on global climate. Just to really end by underscoring the UN Secretary General's call to let's move from ambition to action with youth at the center. With that, just to thank you all very, very much and wishing you a very successful and great discussions with high participation from all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And I think your presence here with us is a testament to the values that the UN represents and upholds, and is also, interestingly enough, representative of some of the values that the UAE also aspires to in providing spaces for youth. With that said, I would like to move on to Ms. Jawahar Al-Hiraim Al-Shamsi, who is the head of the Youth Opportunities section at the UAE's Federal Youth Authority. With over 9 years of experience in the youth sector, she has led key national and global initiatives, including the Youth Circles, Global Youth Councils, and the Emirates Youth Professional School. With a master's in public policy, specializing in sustainable development, and a bachelor's in international relations. She also has served as office manager to the Minister of State for Youth Affairs and was a member of the UAE Saudi Coordination Council. Mrs. Shamsi, thank you so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So it's a privilege to be with you today as we unite to address one of the greatest challenges and opportunities for our lifetime. The UN Secretary General has called on the world to raise its ambition ahead of COP30, and I believe youth are the key to turning that call into reality. Climate change is not a challenge. It's the defining test of our generation. It's the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and the safety of our homes. But with every challenge comes a chance to lead, to innovate, to inspire change. So this is your moment. The decision you make, the ideas you share, and the action you take will ripple far beyond today, shaping the world for decades to come. Across the UAE, I have seen youth step forward with vision and courage. They have launched startups that use technology to cut emissions, led campaigns to protect coastlines, and represented our country in the world's most important climate negotiations. You're not waiting for the future, you're creating it now. What makes youth leadership powerful is not only creativity, the ability to inspire others, to believe that change is possible. And in the world where many see climate change as overwhelming, your belief and your action are a source of hope. When UAE youth have stood on the global stage, whether at COP summits and international forums, youth have shown that our national young voices are strong, solution-focused, and ready to lead. They have demonstrated that youth leadership is not about age. It's about courage, vision, and commitment. Today's discussion is not about ideas. It's about transformation. It's about turning a speech into strategy and a strategy into action that touches lives. Even small steps, when multiplied by thousands of young people, can become a movement that shifts the future. So we're at the Federal Youth Authority, our mission is to stand beside you. We're open doors for different opportunities, connect you with the right opportunities, and ensure that your voices is part of decision-making process. But the real leadership, the real spark comes from you, your passion, your courage, and your vision for the world you want to live in. The Secretary General's call is a call to action for all the humanity. But for youth, it's a call to lead. You have the energy to mobilize, the creativity to innovate, and the determination to make sure that climate action is not a promise, but a reality. So every voice matters, every ideas matters, every single action matters. Together, we can be the generation that turns the tide on climate change and proves that the future is not something we waited for. It's something we create. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jawahar, and it's such a pleasure to have you as a representative of the Federal Youth Authority and to share some of the values that the Ministry of Youth and Culture, or Culture and Youth, aspire to here in the UAE. And now I'd like to move on to our panel discussion. I'd like to introduce our partner in crime, Ms. Amna Al-Noor, who is one of the soldiers who works behind the scenes from the Global Compact Network here in the United Arab Emirates. She is a program coordinator for the GC and holds a master's in, I'm looking it up, environmental sustainability and law and politics from Sorbonne University here in Abu Dhabi. Ms. Amna, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, and I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Saif. I wasn't looking forward to that. Well, thank you so much to you, Saif, and it's a pleasure to share this morning with all of you, of course, as we gather for this very important and timely conversation, and to, of course, hear from our esteemed speakers so far, Stephen and Jawahar. We appreciate you being here with us this morning. Again, just to reiterate, I'm Amna Noor. I'm the Programs Coordinator within the UN Global Compact Network in our UAE office. I'd like to say just quickly on behalf of our team, it's also a pleasure to co-host this webinar with our colleagues at the UN Resident Coordinator's Office. Saif, of course, thank you for being with us here this morning. It's my pleasure now to, of course, shift this conversation to a dialogue with a panel that brings together three remarkable youth leaders, each representing a different university and each making an impact well beyond campus walls. But just quickly before I introduce our speakers, I'd just like to note that our chat is open. So we'd love to hear from our attendees this morning. I know we have a diverse range of attendees from different sectors and government sectors, private sector, students, youth leaders. I know we've heard from our speakers that it's about youth and it's about mobilization, and we'd love to hear your ideas as well. So feel free to drop any questions that you have, and then towards the end of the conversation, we would love to we'd appreciate our speakers to chime in and hear your answers, if any, of course. Now, without further ado, we have three wonderful speakers who we're very appreciative to have with us this morning. We have Yugmi Gidia, a senior at NYU Abu Dhabi, who has represented the UAE at COPs and led campus sustainability initiatives and led innovative climate solutions. We also have Nicole Weber, a master's student at Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi, who works with Greenpeace MENA on climate justice and well-being economy projects, with award-winning research on biomimicry and sustainability. And we also have Samira Khan, from American University of Sharjah, who graduated and who now works at the AUS Office of Sustainability, who also represented her university on global stages like the COPs. Now, over the next half an hour, we will be exploring and looking at how youth visibility is evolving. We'll also be looking at how personal journeys will be shaping purpose, where influence is real, and what it will take for youth priorities to be front and center at the COP, all coming from the UN General's address. So I think a good place to start, of course, is the speech itself, the UN Secretary General's speech just this past July, where he not only called for urgent and accelerated action, but also for a just and inclusive transition. So turning to you, maybe we can start with you. When you heard that address, of course, this would be a good opportunity to share elements of that with our attendees, but what stood out to you personally or in relation to your work? Was there something within his call that felt particularly relevant to your context or experience working within the climate space?
All right. Thank you so much, Amna. And yeah, talking about the Secretary General's address, I feel like what really stood out to me and what stuck with me was his urgency around like accelerating the clean energy transition and his focus on the fact that it's not just, something that we've been planning or a vision, but it's actually turning into reality. The numbers are showing that renewables are much more cheaper than they were like 20 years ago. And it's easier for us to switch to renewables. So like we've seen how quickly it's accelerating. And through my work here in the UAE with COP71, with a few of their startups as part of their climate tech program in the MENA region, and also with this climate incubator that I worked at in New York City called the Urban Future Lab, I got to see that the space of like just the clean energy transition is so fast evolving. We've seen startups coming up, and they're trying to tackle everything from renewable energy integration to grid efficiency. And so, but for the speed to be sustainable and equitable, we have to bridge some very critical gaps, and that comes with policy alignment, accessible financing, and workforce development. And I feel like very relevant to me, and something that felt very personal to me was the focus on workforce development that the Secretary General also talked about. Is we need training for these green jobs as youth and also as people who will be the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. We need to be trained. We need to have access to materials that help us make sure that we're ready for the transition and that we have these green skills, just to make sure that when we are creating the technology, we're also creating the opportunities for the communities that are most at risk and for youth groups to be able to be equipped with the skills. And so that's where the just transition becomes real. And as a young person who's ready to like graduate and go out in the world, and I know I want to work in the climate space, but the most important thing is like I want to make sure that I have the skills, the knowledge, and also the opportunity to be able to like prove myself. So, and I as Mr. Stephen mentioned, like the transition is like the focus is that the transition has to be renewable, inclusive, and just. And for that to happen, we need to make sure that we're putting out programs, we're making sure that there's efficient like trainings and accessible materials for everyone to be equipped and have the skills. So that was something that really stood out to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very, I think, well-rounded perspective. Nicole, where would you say that call landed for you?
So I would say what really stood out to me in his Secretary General's address was his insistency that yes, our clean energy future must be inevitable, but also just and fair. And myself, coming from a social science background, that resonated deeply with the concept of justice as fairness, where we actually have to focus on the most vulnerable first. So that said would be more the global south. And that's also what Secretary General Guterres reminded us about, that justice means putting those forward that are most affected, and especially those that contributed the least to it. So I was also struck by his call to pair this justice with efficiency. Because in philosophy, we call this term akrasia. It's an ancient Greek word which says that we know the right thing to do, but yet we fail to act. So, and in the most of the COPs, yes, commitments are made, but tensions are everywhere because even if we have those commitments, they stagnate. And this is what Guterres meant by we need to accelerate this action. And especially now with COP30, I think it's a good opportunity where we can show that this is the moment to act and not only to commit. So for me, climate action has to go also beyond purely technocratic market fixes because we need to rebuild our relationship with nature. And that's for me through commons-based governance, cultural inclusion, and even design principles that are inspired by nature itself. So this is also the approach I've been taking with Greenpeace MENA by developing like policy recommendations for the UAE that focuses mostly on locally grounded and rooted regenerative solutions that are co-created with communities, but also co-created with nature itself and inspired through nature. So yeah, I especially focus on the point where Guterres mentioned that we should get the energy from the cloud, which means actually from nature itself. So yeah.
Very, very interesting. I think that link between uh, justice and nature is very profound. Thank you for sharing that. Samir, I'm going to come to you and I will ask you the same question. I'd love to hear your perspective on that as well.
Of course, thank you so much. Firstly, thank you so much, Amna, for having me here today. I would say a lot of my perspective on the call is echoed. I would like to echo what Nicole and Yugmi both said. One other aspect that really stood out to me was his mention of the importance of climate finance now going forward.
Mm.
When I was a student at the American University of Sharjah last year, my experience as a student worker at the Office of Sustainability as an eco rep, I had worked a lot on community engagement with the students on campus. And one of the biggest challenges I faced was getting the youth from the finance sector or the business side of things really interested or understanding how they can be involved in sustainability. And I feel like that the call did a very good job describing exactly where finance, trade, and investment play a role and how they're really going to change our climate space, especially because of the fact that a country is limited based on their economic achievements and based on their economic possibilities. Going back to what Yugmi mentioned with regards to training, job training is something that is extremely important. As someone who has just entered the climate space more recently and has continued her role as an eco up to now being a sustainability specialist at my university, I think that job training is extremely important. I still feel like job training is something I need and something I look forward to and would be more than happy to welcome those sort of opportunities in my life. So that's my take on it in a nutshell.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Samir. Thank you all for sharing your perspective. I think it's definitely valuable to hear how a call like that would land differently across different ears. I mean, I think generally a global call like that wouldn't hit everyone the same. Of course, hearing from your answers, a lot of it is congruent to shared global challenges like finance, for example, and just transitions, but they would still filter differently through lived experiences and contexts. And I think this would bring me to my next questions, my next question specifically. What do you think would actually help someone move from will and awareness of challenges to action? So it's clear, for example, that climate is top priority for many youth across the world, but now translating that awareness into real contribution isn't always straightforward. We've seen, for example, across the UAE, powerful examples from youth-led initiatives through youth councils across organizations. We've seen UAE climate ambassador programs. We've seen platforms like COP28 youth delegations. Those are great examples where youth have actually stepped up and shaped real outcomes. Now, from your own experiences, what helped you personally move from having that awareness of the issue into igniting or moving into action? Was there a moment or influence that gave you clarity on where you could best contribute? Maybe I'll go to the same Nicole first.
Yeah, thank you. Well, from my own experience, I would say the most important platform would be the institutional events and also the conferences that bring diverse speakers into one room. So even from young to senior experts, because those spaces not only allow youth to speak up to a broad audience, but also to create this powerful opportunity to network and with this networking also to explore how the ideas and concepts can actually transform to market-ready solutions. So I'm particularly mentioning the call for papers events where youth have the possibility to publish their research and participate in a broad research project. And in my case, this was the Wellbeing Economy Award competition, which was hosted by Greenpeace and Ajman University, because there my colleague and me, we could present our research paper on integrating biomimicry and commons-based approaches in the UAE. And this resonated deeply with the jury, which led to a collaboration now with Greenpeace MENA and my colleague and myself to actually develop a policy report, which we will present later on to several UAE stakeholders. And I believe these sort of events make it possible that youth can come, present their paper, and maybe actually find their opportunity to bring it to market with experts that find potential in those researches. Because I realized that many climate strategies are still locked in technocratic fixes, and that we needed to draw more on nature-inspired solutions. And this shifted my perspective on actually knowing the science to actively shaping solutions.
Incredible. Feel free to share that paper with us once you're done. Thank you, Nicole. Samir, I'm going to come to you with your own experience on this.
Absolutely. I think as someone in the youth space, something that really inspired me to speak up and really participate in all these beautiful and amazing initiatives that were being carried out with regards to COP and COI was the election of a youth climate champion. I think when the election of a youth climate champion happened about 2 COPs ago, it really made me realize that someone is also a youth. They are in the same age bracket as me. They are going through similar experiences as me. And if they can do it, if they can be there and raise awareness and be the voice for us youth, why can I not do the same in my own space, in my own capacity? And I think that was extremely inspiring and really made me want to raise awareness and work on community engagement and speaking to the youth. Originally, it would definitely be that. Secondly, I would say that my experience as a student worker on campus, being able to interact and interact with campus engagement, with having events, and also being given the chance to represent my university up at COP29 at the UAE Pavilion was an extremely exciting opportunity because I got to speak about a very exciting topic called mindful menus, which focuses on more sustainable catering and conferences, wedding events, parties, something we don't really think about on a day-to-day basis or may not align sustainability with. These type of opportunities, being given the chance to speak at the UAE Pavilion on a public international space, really inspired me to want to work harder and go further, breaking boundaries with the rest of the world as well.
Amazing. Those are such interesting and cool projects, I think, and opportunities to give for students. And I think it also helps you build that confidence, right? To also dive into larger opportunities and larger projects, and
Absolutely.
also eventually find your niche. Yugmi, I'd love to hear about your experience with this question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Amna. I feel like as Nicole and Samira both talked about, I feel like one common theme that I see here is like how universities or institutions that you're part of kind of really play a very important role in just like, helping you visualize or realize the fact that like it is real and you could do so much more with it, like in the climate space. Like for me, like the shift from like awareness to like the action part of it, because I've always been very involved and very aware. I've always followed the news ever since, I don't know, I was in middle school. But like I really started working on things when, I realized that the climate action could be embedded into every single sector and not just like environmental organizations. And one of the points for me, like the like eureka moments, was when I was like working with this fintech startup at Hub 71 in Abu Dhabi, and it's a fintech startup, but I pitched like, could we work on a carbon footprint calculator for banks, and that could help like consumers understand their personal carbon footprinting. And then that led to me, helping build a database of values. And then I was sitting behind and like trying to figure out the carbon footprint of every single purchase that you could think of, like an apple, but like, and then I'm trying to localize it to MENA and things like that. So like, because I come from a engineering background, and I study bioengineering, but at the same time I'm also very interested in the climate space. So like trying to like find those links to the climate space, to like all these different sectors. And that's when you realize, like, now the shift that you see, that majority of the organizations have an environmental social governance or a ESG team or a department. And the fact that it's not a separate team, but rather a lot of them are trying to embed it under their umbrella of like various teams. Because, ESG or environment or climate can't just be like, sustainability can't just be like a separate team. It has to be embedded. I feel like just like seeing that companies and like the corporate world is also like adapting to these kind of changes really helped me like see that, okay, like I need to be working on it. And also another thing that Nicole also mentioned was like the diverse speakers, like the UAE itself is such a diverse country. And the fact that growing up here, I've seen so many opportunities pop up where youth have been invited to be part of these roundtables, and be part of these conversations. And that brought together diverse speakers, not just like in terms of age, but also in terms of different areas, sectors that they worked on. And that really helped me like look at it from a more holistic point of view and see that like everything was connected and could link down to something. And I feel like that really helped me as a young person realize that I didn't have to be an expert at something, but I could be good at one specific area, and then we could all come together and like link it up. And that really helped me.
Thank you, Yugmi. I honestly, I resonate so much with your answer. I come from also an engineering background. I think the journey to find what you want to do or what you should do, just coming from having that passion, is quite widespread, I think, amongst so many youth. And I think the pathways to act on it aren't always clear. This is also, by the way, something we've been exploring at the UNGC, also in collab with the UNRCO, on how to better connect climate-aware youth with hands-on opportunities, whether through research or applied learnings or early career experiences that actually match those values. Happy to share details about this at a later time, but I'm going to move into our next question, which is about what's actually working in the ecosystem. Now, I'm going to maybe move it from beyond us as individuals and our own journeys and to where we actually land within the climate systems. Now, I know that the conversation when it comes to climate often sheds a light on what's missing. Fair enough. I know that's fair, of course, given the urgency required. But there's also real value in zooming in on what's working, whether that's policy, a program, a platform. And I want to spotlight examples of that. Now, through courses of work or any initiatives that you have come across in the UAE and globally, what do you feel is genuinely enabling youth participation in climate action? And what do you think makes these initiatives or platforms effective? Maybe Samira, I can come to you first here.
Absolutely. I think the UAE is doing an incredible job with the climate space, especially in more recent years. Of course, with the hosting of the Year of Sustainability 2 years in a row, and of course, COP28 held in Dubai, we saw a big change, a big shift in not only the climate laws, but also the way the climate space is perceived now within our own community. With regards to that, I think the education sector in the UAE has been doing an incredible job, really giving students the opportunity to shine, really giving the youth the opportunity to shine. And that just makes the most sense because as youth, we are going to go through that education journey. So getting to really take on and grasp the concept of climate action and having a sort of educational or institutional climate space is extremely important, where we get to interact with others that align with our values. For example, me and I have both gotten an opportunity to work together in the past. So coming together for this opportunity is just strengthening that exact notion. Plus, the Climate Ambassadors program, which I luckily got the opportunity to participate in, also did an incredible job really raising awareness about what it is like to be at the COP. What is it like to get a seat at the head of the policy table, which is something I think a direction that the youth should be taking, considering, like Saif said, we are the future. The youth is the future of the world.
Amazing. Thanks for that answer. Yugmi, maybe since you got a call out, I
Yes,
can come to
yes.
you here.
For sure. I believe this is Samira and my third event together in the
No
climate
way.
space. And as just like echoing what Samira said, just the fact that the UAE has been doing such an incredible job. Like I've been to 2 COPs, I've been to a few other conferences, and the fact that the UAE delegation has the largest number of young people being represented in itself is such a great thing. And it speaks so much about the country's commitment to ensuring that you'd get a seat at the table. And I feel like just Ministry of Climate Change is, has been working so hard and like making sure that they're launching events. There's doing like youth councils to ensure that youth get a seat at the table. They don't just they're not just there to like listen to things, but they're leading these kind of like webinars and these kind of youth conferences. I feel like that's been really nice. Another thing that another program that really has been working is the Zayed Sustainability Prize. We are the home of the Zayed Sustainability Prize, and it's given like I participated in it when I was in high school, when I was like barely 16, and like it gave me such a good platform to, like I had this idea and I'm like, I want to implement it, but I don't have the resources for it, or I don't have, like the direction on how to do it. And then these kind of like programs that the UAE has, like, is not only helping youth get access to funding, but also like opportunities and like mentorships. I feel like that is very, very important. Also,
Yep.
a quick shout out to one of the places I worked at. It's called the Clean Energy Business Council, MENA, and they're a non-profit. They work at the collaboration of public and private sector. And one of the greatest things that they do is we have all these different working groups that focus on energy efficiency, climate finance, you name it. And they're actually looking for youth or young people to come in, and they've got like all the corporate clients and every single company you can think of in the MENA region that has something to do with ESG or like sustainability. They're all coming together, and leaders and people who are like so so experienced in these specific niche areas. And as young people, you get to like collaborate with them and get their perspective and work on white papers with them and participate in panels. So like I feel like some of these are just examples of things that I also wanted to, put out there, just in case people in the chat and people who are the audience wanted to know of initiatives. So I feel like these are some examples of just how much the UAE has been open to, ensuring that you get a seat at the table, and then facilitating that by like putting out competitions, putting out like panels and roundtables for the youth to be part of. Another thing that I've participated in quite a lot is the Youth Circle, which is hosted again by
Yeah.
I believe YSL, the youth
Federal
Masdar,
Youth Authority.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And also Irina has been doing quite a lot. So I feel like, and just the fact that like you could always, the one thing I love about the climate space is how open everyone is to just having a chat with you and talking to you. I think that has been really great. So you could always be reaching out to people and they'll never say no to you, because it's such a new field, especially in the region, and people want to make sure that there's awareness, and that they can help you in whatever way
Yeah.
that you can. So I feel like that's another, like, the climate network is very strong, and like people are very welcoming. So I feel like for sure, like always be reaching out to people, be it through LinkedIn or something. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I agree with agree with a lot of what you said, definitely. Nicole, would love to hear your perspective here.
Absolutely. I'm just going to add on what Samira and Yukmi already said. But yes, the UAE is definitely one standout example of where youth voices are not only heard, but also integrated in decision making. And I'm going to already thank Mrs. Ashamsi for being present, because I think the Youth Council is one of the most important key figure in the Emirates, because they embed youth councils not only in municipalities, but also in ministries and institutions. And I believe this is a very powerful mechanism where we can bridge youth-led initiatives with government action. And they actually provide direct channels to policymakers and ensuring that our ideas are becoming an outcome and becoming a call for action. So all the UAE youth-led events and social enterprises and climate-focused initiative often receive backing up from institutions, whether through funding or mentorship. And I believe mentorship is also a key factor here, because sometimes youth don't even need the money, but really mentorship and guidance on how to implement their ideas. And I believe the UAE makes a very great example for how they mentor their youth. And I also believe that actually the UAE can become a potential leader in being a well-being economy in this sense, because they're very rooted in community engagement. And now this fits very well with 2025 being the year of community. So I believe with aligning youth climate action with a broader societal priority can become a really great potential leader for that.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you for all three of you for that question. I think what I'm hearing, if I would take like a big takeaway from that, is what I'm hearing is that there needs to be that, and what I'm seeing also in the UAE is that level of trust where that needs to be reached, where youth believe that they're being brought in not just to participate, but also to be part of shaping that direction. They really trust their availability in that space fully. I want to take it to our next question, which is about cross-generational collaboration. I know this is one of the bigger conversations that we tend to hear, and kind of sometimes one of the toughest gaps in youth climate leaderships. And this is a conversation that sometimes happens between decision makers or those who hold power and youth who sort of bring that fresh sense of urgency. Of course, just to not repeat everything again, but just to reiterate, here in the UAE, for example, we've seen bridges to that divide, including the Federal Youth Agency again, which we're very grateful to have here with us today. But we've also seen positive examples in climate planning and representation. Globally, however, and within different institutions, for example, that kind of structured collaboration still isn't the norm everywhere. And we know that without genuine intergenerational partnership, a just transition will not be complete yet. Now, I want to ask you, what do you believe meaningful collaboration between youth and institutions look like? Have you come across any principles or practices where partnerships between generational gaps is more effective? If you have any thoughts that would build on the previous question, feel free to let me know. Maybe Yugmi, you have any completing thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I feel like in my experience, just like meaningful collaboration between young people and also institutions happens when youth aren't just brought in to like represent the youth, but rather to like co-design and co-lead projects. So as I mentioned about my experience with the Clean Energy Business Council, CEBC, where I wasn't just observing, I was directly being involved in, helping organize these industry events, contributing to white papers and shaping outreach strategies. And that kind of trust and responsibility made my contributions much more tangible. And it also gave like the senior colleagues new perspectives to integrate in their workflow. So like instead of like doing the marketing or outreach for it in a specific ways, you could like instead of like if it's like a very technical white paper, rather than like having to send it out as a very technical, very like academically focused jargon to a more corporate audience wouldn't just work. So like trying to figure out ways to like simplify it or like make it sound more lucrative to specific audiences really helped. And I've also seen the value of like structured mentorship, as you talked about, like be it during my time at COP29 with the UAE delegation, interacting with them, or with also this other organization that I advocate with called the Plant-Based Treaty. Being paired with experienced individuals allowed me to learn, the political, the technical, and just like the realities that come behind these climate talks, while also gave me a chance to like offer more fresh insights from, all the youth panels and youth innovative spaces that I would be part of. So like it's like a two-way street. So the principles that really make it work is clear roles, shared accountability, I would say, and like a genuine openness to listen, and not just from the young people to this, but like it's a two-way street. Like we both are here to listen and to learn. I feel like that is something that really stood out to me, and that's something that's really worked in previous experiences.
Amazing. Nicole?
Yes, so maybe speaking more theoretically, I would say when we have to start with the mindset shift by not saying that youth are only future leaders, but rather they are already active contributors to the present. And with this, we can also say the example of the UAE, where they embedded the youth institutionally. And if we embed youth institutionally into decision making, we can make a big change. And this could be also an example for other countries to create such institutionalized youth council, because that would give youth a chance to speak and a chance to have a co-designing with active experts and senior experts. So as already Yugmi mentioned, co-designing is very important, because if youth can already be from the beginning, from the scratch on there where the policy is designed, youth will not only be included, but active members of this policy already. And I would say like a practical example would also be to create more youth targeted research opportunities, which are specifically for youth, to propose research ideas that give them the possibility to publish their papers, or maybe to create some policy hackathons or more collaborative, innovative labs where youth could contribute their ideas alongside professionals. And only then I believe that youth could be active members already from now on, and not only from the future on.
Very, very interesting. Thank you, Nicole. And finally, Samir, I'll come to you here.
Absolutely. I would echo a lot of what Yugmi and Nicole said with regards to the mentorship aspect, to the institutionalization aspect. I would say if I was addressing the youth directly and talking about these generational gaps, I would say that every person comes with their own biases. Every person has their own opinions when it comes to the climate space, when it comes to what you say about the climate space. What I'm talking about right now may be perceived in 10 different ways by 10 different people. With regards to that, I think when it comes to talking about the climate space or wanting to participate or really raise awareness or include yourself, keep it simple. Use your voice. Use your geopolitical location to your advantage. We have an advantage to be able to use our voice to really make a difference. A lot of people around the world may not, and that is where the environmental injustice comes in, and climate anxiety and those really important topics come in. Without the voice, without the actual echoing of what we really want, without our opportunities like this, where we get to speak up, without these sort of opportunities, we are not doing justice to those around the world that are suffering because of the climate issues that we're facing on a day-to-day basis. We get to be their voices. And I think just harnessing that voice and using that opportunity, taking on the chance to really work hard in the climate space and really bring everyone up and raise awareness and try to bridge those gaps with the future generation or with the earlier generations and with our senior colleagues and with our more experienced leaders is extremely important. So that's sort of my take on this.
Yeah, thank you. I think those are all super interesting takes on that question from your end. I think I would only add on that cross-generation collaboration, I think, works when it's intentional, like you all mentioned. And I think globally, I think we've all seen models where youth aren't just consulted, but like help shape their priorities. Maybe we've all seen recently in the news, like just 2 days ago on International Youth Day, where it was announced the third cohort of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change, uh, who, I mean, just for context, the purpose of that group is to provide high-level advisory. They bring global and regionally grounded recommendations to climate governance. So 2 days ago, just on International Youth Day, the third cohort was announced, and it brought 14 different leaders. So that's a good example on that intergenerational collaboration, so to say. Mindful of time, I'm aware that I think maybe this is a good spot to bring our panel to an end, but maybe we just quickly look at the chat and see if anybody has any question, if anybody would like to ask our panelists or speakers any questions. I see Fatma's speaking about opportunities for climate perspectives and pathways for reviewed. This is interesting. I think, Saif, this is a very good question maybe for our project that we are cooking. It's very much under construction, but maybe, Saif, you would like to address this one if you'd like.
Thank you, Amna. I think the question is primarily around I won't say most or every, but a lot of entities have youth councils and youth representatives, whether in the public sector or private sector. And I think what Fatma is pointing to is that sometimes opportunities are only available to those who are actually participating in these youth councils, and she's probably interested in knowing how she can participate in other ways. That's my understanding, and perhaps that's actually a question for Jawahar,
Yeah.
since she's coming from the Federal Youth Authority. So Jawahar, I'll leave it to you, actually. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Saif and Amna. So basically, if we will talk internationally or in a perspective that we can mention that we have different youth opportunities or different initiatives that can support youth to guide them through all climate actions perspectives. So, for example, we have one of the programs that called UAE Youth Climate Delegates that we open it yearly for up to 5 to 10 delegates that they can be from UAE national or different nationalities as well to be our, let's say, right hands or consultant to cover the climate change aspects. And another aspects or another thing that we are already working on, that we are hosting different youth circles with different relevant entities that focus on climate change, that can give the youth the slots or the opportunities to speak about their different perspectives and connect them with the different decision makers that can give them more insights and give them more guidance on that as well.
Thank you so much, Jawahar. Thank you so much for your answer. Thank you, Fatma, for asking your question. I'd like to also thank our panelists for your time and contributions today. I also see a question from Omar on just transition. Just to quickly answer, if anybody also has an answer, can feel free to chime in. But yes, a just transition in principle includes those whose livelihoods or communities are most affected, while also addressing, of course, those who are hit the hardest by climate impacts. Feel free to, if you have any follow-up questions, to email us as well, and I'll be happy to follow that. a notable increase in climate awareness among world's youth. There's also been an additional rise in mental health issues from the world's perceived lack of action in tackling climate issues with major stakeholders. How can the world's youth protect themselves from apathy and depression? Maybe if any of our panelists would like to answer this as a last question before we wrap up.
I could do that.
Yes, Samir.
I think climate anxiety is a new term that is starting to come up because of all of, the, again, as mentioned by Omar, like all the apathy and the depression that may surround the climate space. I think really making sure that you are educating yourself on the climate space, on what are the actions that are being taken for such climate space, for just transition, educating yourself with the right resources and making sure that you have the right information is extremely important, but also making sure you're doing your part. So it gives you that sense of community. It gives you that sense of opportunity that you are also doing your part to help out and help reduce, any sort of depression or any sort of tough situations anyone might be in. That would sort of be like a quick response.
Do you mind if I quickly
Of
chime in
course,
as
go ahead.
well? Yeah, and just to add on to what Samira just mentioned, I feel like one of the things that really works for me as well is sometimes taking time off the climate space as well, and just like reconnecting with, people and peers and just spending time with loved ones. Also, one resource that really has worked for me is it's this news channel called The Daily Climate, and this actually it focuses on more positive news and good things that are happening in the climate space rather than all the bad things coming down. So I feel like just like shifting your perspective and reading on all the positive things that happen rather than like focusing on we are not meeting the targets, but we're also doing so much more in terms of renewables. Just like that mindset shift has been something that's really helped me. So
Thank you so much, Yugmi. Just before we wrap up, I would like to, on behalf of our team, of course, at the UAE Global Compact Network and the team at the UN Resident Coordinator Office, I'd like to extend our sincere thanks to all of our speakers today for sharing your insights and our panelists for such an engaging discussion. I would like to, of course, thank everybody who joined us this morning, shared your morning with us. We'll be sharing the recording of today's webinar with you. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if any more speakers is happy to chime in, we'll be appreciative of that. Thank you once again, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye.